Thomas, thank you very much for joining the AlpMomentum podcast on universities. Welcome.
My pleasure. Great being here.
First of all, congratulations on your great achievements in the Redstone University study, where you ranked actually number 2 of all universities over $1 billion budget in Europe in terms of capital efficiency and in terms of startup activity. And I was really looking forward to talking to you, not only because also originally I'm from Munich, but also because you have such an amazing kind of background, very interesting, very unusual also path of studying and great achievements. So I think you studied kind of chemical food science. And maybe we can start off with you explain a little bit how that came. I think very few children maybe dream about studying food and then later on becoming president of a large university.
I studied food chemistry, which is primarily organic chemistry, focus on natural products and so on. But that, I think, idea was born quite early, actually. I think probably I was 10 or 11. I got my first chemistry set to do experiments at home, and I just had a lot of fun with it. And later, in particular, when my parents were not here, we even built some rockets and tested out the rockets in our garden. That was a lot of fun. And I think that always excited me a lot. And later, I think my interest changed a bit. I was close to studying archaeology, something very different. And remember a book I read, this was on, I think it was called God's Graves and Scholars. And that really fascinated me to identify and find new architectures and digging all this out of the dirt. It's a bit like science, right? Because you don't know what you will see. And it still fascinates me. But later it became chemistry.
Amazing. And what would you say, what experiences shaped your educational philosophy and maybe also your leadership style? Now you're in charge of a huge organization.
When I was studying at the University of Erlangen-Nuremberg, I made some experiences which I didn't like at all at that time. It was professors in white clothes, and they never talked with the students. They just talked with their assistants in labs on the students, but never with the students. And I hated that at that time already. So I think I always said, if I become a leader or whatever in the future, wherever it will be, I will be not like that. Because this is completely old-fashioned, and I think it is not motivating. And I'm a big fan of motivating people because this is how they, I think, deliver best performances at the end.
Absolutely, probably important in every area. But maybe you can quickly describe Technical University of Munich. I guess most people have heard of it, but what is it? How big is it? A few facts about this institution.
TUM is like a startup, which is what I say. Usually we try to live day 0 or day 1 every year again, because we are constantly on the move. Quantitatively, so we have today about 52,000 students, almost 670 professors, more than 10,000 employees. So it's a huge organization. And it grew substantially in the last 15 years. We more or less doubled our student cohort. We grew the faculty by about 60%. So really massive growth in quantity, but also in quality. And which is seen in international rankings nowadays, but also in particular, this is where I am proud of, not only in science and research, but also in the quality of our students. So our students are sought after worldwide, and in the global employability rankings, which is not a theoretical type of rankings when it comes to numbers, but about 6,000 companies are asked which universities deliver the best students for their needs. And so here we rank always between 10 and 15 since years, and this, globally, and this is fantastic. And I think this is also what a university is all about, to develop the next generation of top talents.
Indeed, very, very impressive. But as you said, it's such a large organization by now. It has grown a lot. How do you manage something like that? How do you actually also ensure quality and quality control?
Yeah, that's a difficult question because, first of all, you need good people you can trust, and on the other hand, also you give them responsibility for what they are doing. As the president, you cannot decide each and everything, in particular not if you have an organization of this size. On the other hand, there are certain elements where I take care of personally. So that's, for example, when it comes to professor recruitment. So each faculty member over the last 5 years, I think roughly about 220 new professors were appointed. And I met with each and every of them at least 1.5 hours.
Wow.
Because I want to know what these people are about, what is the way how we can motivate those people, for what do they burn for, and what are their visions. And I use it also to cross-connect then the faculty members across the different campuses. So that's really important, I think, because they are the ones to attract then new students and new scientists. And if we make mistakes at that level, and the professors stay for 20, 30 years, the best professors will get an offer in a year at Stanford or Imperial or wherever. But if you have professors who do not perform well, they will stay forever. So it will decrease the quality of the university. That's why this is so important.
Wow, indeed, a lot of dedication, like a founder, really meeting with every person who joins the team. Maybe you can quickly then, or let's focus on research. There are 3 pillars in your case: research, teaching, and entrepreneurship. How do you foster a thriving research kind of environment?
Also, it starts with good people. When we start a new endeavor, for example, like over the last 2 years, we started to build strength in organoid systems, so that we built using stem cell technology organoids in order to better understand diseases, but also to develop screening models, screening platforms, and to lower the number of animal experiments in the long run. That's the idea. And you need to bring together experts from medicine, from computer science, from natural science, biophysics, and so a highly interdisciplinary setting. And if you start this, and this is true for each and every, I would say, focus area, you need to start with a top shot, a top talent. And here, for example, we hired from San Francisco a colleague who has led one of the prestigious diabetes centers before. And he now is leading as the director this center, together with one of our best biophysicists. And they then attract additional talents, additional professors, scientists, and this is how you build that up. So you have to do first a strategic decision where we think we can make a difference in the future, like that. And then you have to bring the right people to the table. And then it comes to infrastructure, because you need good infrastructure, lab infrastructure, all the systems to do the research. But this is important because otherwise the people cannot work. But the primary start is always to get the right people, because the right people will be active to get third-party funding, and they will bring money on their own into the university to build this environment and to make it really to becoming a major focus area.
Absolutely. I also have seen this actually often with startups and technology companies. If you have an amazing CTO that shines, then he attracts amazing talent again, but also vice versa. And maybe what were the one or two kind of breakthroughs in terms of research you're most proud of, or that kind of are standing out, if you can say that at all? Because obviously every area is important, but is there anything where you say you're particularly proud of?
There are really many, I think, but in this organ systems focus area, I think we can really be proud that we brought a lot of top talents together now. Definitely also we are very strong in quantum science and technology. together with the Max Planck Institutes and the LMU also. We have in Munich roughly about 90 professors in quantum science and technology. This is fantastic. So that's why Munich is such a strong place in quantum science today.
Yeah, really one of the big kind of clusters in the world, I think.
It was the foundation to build the Munich Quantum Valley. Also, the state of Bavaria puts almost $500 million of new research funds into this ecosystem.
Oh wow, great! Maybe now switching to teaching. Anything? I mean, you're a public university, very traditional. What kind of innovations did you introduce at TUM in terms of teaching? Anything that you want to highlight or would highlight?
So we are public, but not traditional.
Yeah.
No, I think we try out a lot of things. So we even started to reform how we educate our students. I personally think that each and every student coming to us has a talent, but most of them do not know what their talents are. And we need to figure out where they have the talents. Because if they know their talents and if we support the students to work on their talents, then they become really good. And at that point, when they become really good and you're better than others, then it starts to motivate you and you will develop and you will become a top performing scientist or whatever, later entrepreneur, whatever. So that's why we more and more developed formats where we step next to the traditional formats of courses. That starts from, for example, plug-in modules where we have, so to say, flexible modules of topics like AI, like philosophy also, or whatever. We have about 140 of those modules on different areas, and the students can just select them next to their curriculum and can, so to say, just widen the horizon in a highly individual way. But then also we support, for example, student initiatives. I think that's something I'm really burning for. It's we have roughly about 180 student clubs, how we call them. And that means they're students, so student-driven activities, where the students come together and they follow a joint idea. So for example, the TUM Boring team is one, for example, which won the Elon Musk competition. Hyperloop is another one, and there are 178 additional to that. And then they work like entrepreneurs. They start with 2 or 3 people, and suddenly after a year, they are probably roughly about 100 people. And they are structured like a company. With on different positions, they have different functions in order to build, for example, a 20-ton drilling machine just next to their courses. Because they bring the competences of the different disciplines together. So, for example, for this drilling machine, more or less each and every department of the university was involved, because you need the engineers, you need the mathematicians, you need at the very end the business expertise, financial expertise to build up all this and so on. And this is, I think, what makes us different, because something like that is not happening elsewhere in Germany. And we have not only a single one of them, but we have 180. So we have really quite a breadth, I would say, in the student body. And these students are engaged in initiatives like that. And if I ask the students, why are you doing that? Then they say, because I learn much more than I learned in the lectures. In the lectures, you get the foundations and the methods, but to apply them in a systems-wide setting with a systems-wide challenge where you know you alone cannot solve it, but you can solve it with some of the other students. And if we support this way of thinking and of doing, because they really built these devices, then I think we do something right.
If I listen to you, then maybe a follow-on question, then why not build an AI that teaches the students content that figures out where their talents is, and then just run a huge amount of student initiatives?
That's a fantastic idea. so we have a new business.
but how do you see AI? Do you think it's like, how do you implement it, or could it replace? I mean, there's a huge discussion around, are universities in their current form necessary at all?
Yeah, absolutely, they're necessary. I think more than ever, but only if they change. So is again the constant change I talked about. I think and also what we are currently doing is that we not only make it possible that the students use ChatGPT and all those devices, but we even support them to do so, because they should use it as a tool. Because I'm convinced that each and everybody in the future who uses those technologies, they have a benefit. They are just better performing. I always compared a bit to the 80s, where we had the discussion at school whether you can use a calculator in maths or not. And some critical people said, "Oh, if they use a calculator, they will never learn mathematics." And I think we have quite a number of excellent mathematicians today. So I think universities need to enable the students, and also through using those technologies, and that's why this is what we do at TUM in lectures, in how they work together in groups. A lot of those activities are supported by AI technologies. And today, if I would look into the future, I even would say that probably in 10 years, university education will be completely different. We will see much more of those type of challenge-based formats like the student initiatives, because this is something where the students need or should learn the, so to say, interdisciplinary integration of knowledge. So what they still need to have an in-depth knowledge in a field, but they need to have a completely open horizon, how they can collaborate with other disciplines. And that's supported by AI is fantastic. But nevertheless, I think human interactivity is nothing you can substitute so easily. And this is why I think it's important that universities probably move away from this classical lecture hall concept, one instructor and 1,000 students or so. I think this will become old-fashioned, and you will have other formats where they have with digital means and virtual formats, for example, courses they can take wherever they want, but they have, so to say, new formats on the premises of university, and those will be primarily focusing on this interactivity and systems integration thinking.
Yeah. I mean, you also see this in the real world economy, where even the most technical companies now move back to at least some office time, because I think human interaction was actually quite a lot underestimated how important it is, which most of the companies now figure out. And but interesting that you see that as something where universities would focus on in the future, or at least as one part.
Yeah, and fostering creativity and those type of things or your communication skills. All this becomes much more important. Getting information is not an issue anymore, and but the synthesis of information and the learning the students to make right decisions, so decision making, and also by using AI-based technologies, but not only trusting in the outcome of those technologies, but really decision-making on what they have learned. I think this is where the future education will go.
So maybe switching to entrepreneurship and on the founders, what are the biggest success stories that kind of came from TUM?
Success stories when it comes to companies?
Yeah, when it comes to companies, company creation, in terms, a few that you could mention.
In the meanwhile, I think there are many, but one is Celonis, for example, and I have, from early on, I think, quite good connections to them. That's why I mentioned them, because I remember I was Vice President Research Innovation. I became in 2009, actually in 2011. Or 2010, probably 10 or 11. I don't remember again. They 3 students approached me. These were the 3 founders later, and they said, "We have an idea, and on process mining. We are not sure whether it will work. What is your opinion about it?" And so we talked about it, and then I said, "This sounds fantastic. You have to do it." And we supported them, and about 10 years later, they became one of our first unicorns. That's really nice. In 10 years is fantastic.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. I think from TUM for Munich.
But we have more like we have still close contacts and collaborate with Lilium, for example, air taxis. Personio is one of the success stories when it comes to so to say digital tools for HR management in companies. They are worldwide active now, and there are many others.
Yeah. Actually, really great set of companies. Many different, actually also very diverse areas.
We have some areas where I think we have not exploited our potential yet. So, for example, in food and ag, we are not good enough. I think we are really good in science, but on our food and ag campus, entrepreneurial spirit was not there. I would say up to 5 years ago, and since then now it's growing. Now we have about 50 startups incubated on this campus that never happened before. So we want to spread, so to say, the entrepreneurial spirit, which grew substantially on the campus Garching in particular, natural science and engineering, and in bringing this over now to Weinstefan, our food and ag campus, and also to the city here and our medical campus. Because here we have fantastic medical research, and I think we have not exploited yet our potential. So that's the next step. This is what we are currently doing.
You said we need to spread the entrepreneurial spirit. How do you do this?
We spread it over different layers, so to say. It starts with students that we allow, or that we create free space for students next to their study curriculum to do other things, like, for example, these initiatives. Many of those were born out of engineering and natural science, and now the first ideas come from the medical school. This is really fantastic. It goes over to how you support scientists or students. Then they come with a good idea to you. You can tell them, oh, go back to your clinics and do your job. Or you can tell them it's a great idea. Probably we can release you for a certain time, and you can focus on this, on further developing the idea or the technology. So it's I would say also it's how you support and sensitize first and then support these talents. And what opportunities you create to give them more space for development next to their regular business they have. Like, for example, we have Gründungsfreisemester, so it's professors can take that until a year off to develop their own business. This is something which we introduced some years ago, and now since 2 years it's even in the new university law of Bavaria. This is fantastic, so others can follow.
This indeed is I think very interesting, because so far most of the initiatives were directed to the students, but very few to the faculty of universities, which is great to hear that you changed that. And also I think like medicine is what I've observed is it's a study that's long, that's expensive, but you also have a lot of students, and we're compared to other areas, the least amount of kind of entrepreneurship education is done, despite the fact that it's such a promising area and such an important area.
Yeah, but this is, I think, one reason is that if you study medicine, that is quite regulated by the state. So it's not like if you open up a new program in computer science, it's just on us what type of content we bring into this curriculum. That's different here. Yeah, that's why we need to offer additional opportunities, like Think, Make, Start is also such an initiative where students can come in and can develop an idea to a more concrete business model in 10 days throughout their study program. So we have a lot of those programs, supported also by Unternehmertum, our associate institute, with a lot of people supporting from idea until the growth phase. So you need, at the end, an armada of different initiatives, and we started that. I remember very well. I had a conversation with Helmut Schönberger about, it's more than 12 years back, just when I became vice president. We said, let's have a look from the first idea to the growth phase, each and every step. What type of measure can we introduce to overcome a barrier? And that's why we, since then, introduced, I don't know, hundreds of different measures. And since then, now we see that the number of startups, number is going up. So we have now about a bit more than one startup every week, tech startup every week. This is, I think, 70 to 75 a year.
That's a very, very good number. You mentioned Unternehmertum. I think that also plays a huge role in the kind of entrepreneurial development of TUM. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that, and also in general, what type of how your approach is to supporting students and maybe also faculty to spin out startups or found startups.
Support it's something. It's very easy. Even at the time when I negotiate with new faculty, for example, in many cases we also talk about startup support. Some faculty members even come to us and they already have founded a company, and in many cases we talk about on the startup support we can offer. It's not an expectation yet. I think this is true for Stanford. We are not there yet. But I always tell them that we really highly encourage our faculty members, our scientists, to think about not only about publications. That's okay. That's needed. That brings us up in the scientific rankings. That's important. That's our scientific currency. But you can take it a step ahead. Just take the next step and let's see, is there something on the base of which you can open up a new business. And we have some faculty members, they now have 3, 4, 5 companies. And this is fantastic. And Unternehmertum is supporting the entire path. So when it comes to student initiatives and all those initiatives, I think we are doing a lot of things also through our TUM entrepreneurship team. Later on, but then it comes to preparing the business model, probably also matching the right people for the founding team. This is where also the Unternehmertum comes in. We have a lot of business expertise and a network of experts from outside. When I remember in 2010, we always thought, as a scientist in physics, and he had a great development, and we always tried to make a top entrepreneur out of a physicist. It may work in one or the other cases, but this is not the success recipe. The success recipe is to bring the right people together in a functioning team. So that means you need to match this expert in physics with somebody who knows the business, with probably somebody from the TUM School of Management. That's why in each third entrepreneurship, each third startup founding team, there's a student or a scientist of the TUM School of Management. So we build actively functioning teams, and this is, I think, what makes the success. It's not only about the technology, it's also about the people.
So you would say, so basically education is TUM, and then Unternehmertum, which is part of TUM, is basically matching people and matching companies with the people, or
and they have accelerator programs and all this. So there's a whole sort of say path of methods and tools and programs we offer. Some of the programs, I would say in particular, more on the idea creation part and all the way up to the business creation. That's more on the TUM side, and then Unternehmertum comes more and more in, and there's a decent part in the center where we really integrate and collaborate, and this is fantastic.
I mean, it's actually highly regarded. It's even, I think there is now this initiative of the German government to kind of copy TUM and Unternehmertum to, I think, 10 other locations and clusters in Germany. Speaking for the success of the path that TUM has taken. How do you see this? And also, aren't you maybe afraid that now other universities are catching up and competing with you for the best professors, best students, and that you're losing your edge in a way? Or how do you see that?
So first of all, I think money alone won't solve the problem. It starts with the right spirit. And unfortunately, many universities in Germany do not have an entrepreneurial spirit yet. hopefully it will change. We heavily support that. But that's important. And only by then, I think the additional money they get, you can valorize it somehow and can create some new functionalities. I think that's important. When it comes to competition, I'm a big fan of competition. So I think the more entrepreneurially thinking universities we have, the more we need to do to become even more better. So I think it's a positive competition.
Yeah, I've heard and read that you're actually very proactively supporting that. So I think that's also a very noble kind of thinking, and as in research, very collaborative even on that side.
Yeah, I think it should be a more national initiative. I think TUM is great, no doubt about it, and I'm proud that I'm the president of TUM. But TUM alone cannot make a major change in the world. So we need to, in order to bring Germany to the next level when it comes to entrepreneurship, and in particular new business creation, then I think we need to build up something like a TUM at other places as well. We need to create more impact.
Absolutely. And what, I mean, I often hear spirit, like the spirit needs to change. In society, we need more entrepreneurial thinking. It's like very vague. How can you change an entrepreneurial spirit at a university?
Changing a spirit is not something which changes from Monday to Tuesday. It's a cultural change, and that's, I think, the challenge. For example, I always try to tell our students and also the scientists, even if they do experiments, and usually when the students come in at the first day, I always tell them that we are happy that we have them at TUM, and they should use TUM as their laboratory. Yeah, you just do experiments, play around with the possibilities you have, and even if some of your activities are not working out, it doesn't matter. So just take the next opportunity. And this is, I think, not a typical German way of thinking, because usually if you are failing, people say, oh, this guy isn't so good because they failed already. And this is this typical German thinking, and this is not the right spirit. We need to change this. And if you look to the success stories of many new companies, I would say not most, but many of the founders tried it 2 or 3 times and failed. And then suddenly the next company became a huge success because they learned from how they failed. And so this is a major advantage they have. So it's not negative. And this, I think, is a change in spirit we need. And that you can only show, I think, by example. So if we show examples how it can work, and others see, oh, probably this is right what they are doing, they can follow. And this is why I think how we can change this culture, but it will take some time. So it's not, I think the really critical part is not money, at least not at the beginning. When it comes to scaling technologies, sure, you need more investment, but at the beginning it's not money. I think it's the spirit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's such an important part, and not only for Germany, but all over Europe. I think all over Europe, there is such a huge potential that is not used by the universities. I often feel it's like university focus on research and teaching, and then they stop there. They don't care enough what happens with, and it would be, as you said, there would be very little investment, if at all needed, to kind of materialize it. It's more encouraging people and faculty. You spoke about like the students that kind of sometimes fail. You've obviously seen tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of students. Can you tell if somebody is later on going to be a successful entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I think I don't have a clear answer for that. To that, I wouldn't say that you can see it. If you work with students for a bit longer time and you get to know their personality, what you can feel is whether this is somebody who really wants to go beyond frontiers or want to do things differently, or is not satisfied by the standard things. I think that's already a good asset if you have that, because these mover and shakers, whatever they do. And whether they become an entrepreneur later, or they become a scientist, or you become a future-oriented politician, at the very end, you always should have the goal to move frontiers. So this is, for me, the common bracket. And I think this is something you can feel in people when you talk with them a bit longer. Yeah. But it's not focusing primarily on or exclusively on entrepreneurs. I think this is, if you want to become a change maker wherever you are, in which function you work, this is, I think, a very important asset.
Yeah. And probably
pioneer. It's a pioneering.
Yeah, probably that also is true for faculty members. Would it be then true that like your expectation in maybe 5 or 10 years would be for faculty member to also found startups? Is that one of your goals, that you say in 10 years I want every faculty member to also be an entrepreneur?
I don't know whether it's each and every faculty, but we still already encourage faculty members to do so, and it's nice to see that it's increasingly coming. Professor Niesner, for example, is also such an example. He just founded Synthesia, his company, just some years ago, and now last year became another unicorn. This is fantastic, and it's a faculty. It's driven from him as the entrepreneur, so to say. To see more of those cases would be fantastic. And this is why we push in particular now also founding or starting companies out of science.
And what would be needed, or how do you do this pushing? What would be needed to transfer more of this academic research into companies, into businesses that then really benefit the whole world?
There are several things. First, you need to lower the threshold for these faculty members to take that next step. That when it comes to, for example, it starts with IP management. We have, for example, introduced fast track options for IP transfer. This starts with how can this person, so to say, co-develop his chair position or her chair position at the same time the company. How can we manage that? And later on, it's also how can we support those entrepreneurs to bring them together with experts, with domain-specific experts, because which is what we see, the domain-specific expertise you need depends heavily on the field of innovation. When you have an innovation in the medtech area, you need completely different expertise, and also the breadth you need is much different compared to an AI or software company, for example. So there is a lot of expertise needed, and we have efforts and formats where we bring domain-specifically the right people to our founders to support them. Because the market expertise usually is something we do not have, I would say, enough at the universities.
Maybe to this, it's like, so how do you have a format where, for example, you encourage industry and also maybe specialized investors to collaborate with your students or with faculty? How do you organize that? Because one of the things that I observed that TUM is also really good in this ecosystem building, so connecting startups, industry, even politics, academia all together. How do you do this?
We have a series of events. The biggest event, this is where really all those people come together, is the Entrepreneurship Day, TUM Entrepreneurship Day. And this is what I started that in 2011. And at that time it was very small. I remember it was in Garching in the mechanical engineering hall, huge hall, 50 people in there. It was a bit disappointing, actually. But then it grew. And I remember 4 or 5 years ago, I said, if we see a day where we have more people participating than we have at the Dies Academicus, the large celebration day of university, then I think we do something right. And that was about 1,000. And now, this year again, we have had 4,000 participants.
Oh, wow.
From students, scientists, investors, companies, global companies, bringing all those people together. We have it's a nice program. You get an invitation for next year.
Thank you very much.
To see from pitching events, from events where startups are looking for market expertise and global companies. So exactly to build the glue, so to say, between the people.
And one of the initiatives you're doing is also a program called CDTM, which very often I hear mentioned or I see founders coming out of that. Maybe do you want to elaborate a little bit on that? What's your aim with that? Why did you build that? Why did you feel there was a lack?
The CDTM program is a fantastic program which dates back to, I think, 2000 or 1999 even. It was a program which was designed by TUM and MIT at that time. And it's a master program where so to say, or a master-like program, I have to say, where students develop, also together with experts from outside, also with companies, for example, tools and services, and at the very end, companies, also in disciplinary teams around digital technologies. And then some years later, the program changed a bit, and now since many years it's jointly organized between TUM and LMU. So it's a nice program. Out of this program, also many companies come out. Also Celonis, for example, the founders of Celonis participated here. And we have a lot of also mixed founding teams between former LMU and TUM students, and I think that's just fantastic.
Yeah, that's really using the full potential of the city.
Yeah.
What would you say are things that maybe other universities in Europe can learn from TUM? What would you advise them? Or what learnings would you share with them? Maybe to formulate it a little bit softer.
Oh, that's a difficult question. I think there are many universities doing things really right. What I would say, without going into one detail, but I think what's really important is that universities keep changing, because this world is changing so massively. Science is changing, businesses are changing, and if universities do not change, in particular understanding that universities should be, so to say, the ones to think ahead of schedule. We should be always 5 or 10 years ahead of thinking. That even more means that you need a lot of foresight. You need to change, to be there at the right point of time. And that's why I think just to believe that we can do research and teaching what we have done since hundreds of years, and that our study formats or a lecture hall looks like 1918, I think that's not enough. So we need to change, because universities who do not change, I think they will become unimportant in the future.
And what would you advise to politicians in other countries that want to drive a more kind of fostering university and entrepreneurial ecosystem?
What I would say to the politics is what I usually say to politics is that just let us go. And don't think that politics know better what a university needs to develop. I think it's a bit like a startup. I see the university like a startup. Because always you need agility to be innovative, and not too many rules. And rules which sometimes don't fit into the future times.
Maybe now, first of all, I think that's very good. So giving more freedom, more flexibility to institutions.
And autonomy, but then also the accountability becomes an important point. So I'm a fan of freedom, autonomy, but also responsibility and accountability, and not control each and every tiny part, because that will never deliver a successful, innovative university.
I think that has been a difficult approach in every form of innovation. If you want to control anything, it's actually impossible in a way. Now switching to the students, maybe, I mean, obviously, every year, millions of young people in Europe are questioning themselves, what career path should I take? Many also look at universities. What is important when looking at a university? What would you advise somebody who has graduated high school when he looks for a university?
What I usually tell the students is that you should not plan your career in too much detail, because there are many. as the world is changing, there's so many opportunities left and right of your path, and if you only focus on one path, you will probably never reach this goal, and you will be completely depressed at the end, because you have overseen a lot of fantastic opportunities left and right. So recently, it was 2 weeks back, at the commencement party, a student asked me what he can do to become a future CEO, and I said that's the wrong question. Should not be your target. Your target should be to be the best in this position where you are currently. And if you're good in this position and you like what you're doing and you're motivated, and that's why you are motivated and you're probably best performing, then you will come to the next step, to the next level, and opportunities will show up. So I'm not a fan of planning too much into the future. Don't know what I will do in some years. You never know. And sometimes opportunities come up, and this agility is important, I think, for the young people. And that's why also it's important not to have blinders on, but just you know what you're good at, and you have learned a lot here, but then just be open and let the world see what comes to you.
Yeah, I also find it, for example, difficult if a founder asks me and says like, okay, how can I plan to sell the company that I'm now just starting in 3-4 years? And I then always tell them, look, I think it's the wrong approach to build a company just to sell it.
Exactly.
You should be focused on building a great product and something really sustainable. And if you have a great product, great company growth, then amazing things will happen. And where that will end up, that nobody knows. And that basically the path should be your aim, and not some future-looking target.
In my own career, I never wanted to become a professor. It's true. Even when I did my PhD, I was clear a professor is not my thing, because my supervisor worked all the day and night, and I said, no, this is nothing for me. I go to industry. But it changed, and because I really got that excitement of science, and I never experienced that before to this extent. And also I'd never plan to become the president, never ever.
If people that are listening now, like what are you looking for? Who should approach TUM? What is TUM looking for in terms?
We are really looking for people who have this open mindset. So and I like people coming and asking questions. We don't need people who think that they already know everything. And I think that's again to have the right spirit. And those people who have thousands of questions, these are the ones to push frontiers.
That's I think really good answer. It's like probably applicable for students, but it's also for companies. If you have like open-minded CEOs of large companies, investors, then TUM is the place to go. Yeah. Maybe one of the last questions. What are your goals for TUM for the next 5 or 10 years? Where do you want the university to be in a few years' time?
Definitely. So next to research and education, I think that's clear that you need to become even better here. But probably in education, we really want to become in Europe an absolute leading institution in future education. That's why we'll invest a lot of money also in education. You know that we introduced student tuition fees from this semester on, and we will invest it exclusively in education. We want to have the top-notch education. That's why we are not a Max Planck Institute. We also do great science, but education is important for us. And next to that, also becoming a university with most impact creation in society. And that means startups, further support of startups, yes, and growing those and growing really impactful companies who can really find solutions to the current major challenges we have, but not exclusively on startups, but also how we work with global enterprises. I think also how universities work with enterprises need to change. We need to come more closer together in trusted alliances, because knowledge transfer, as we called it in the past. So universities have developed something or had a great idea, and then they transfer it to the industry. This is not working anymore. Today it's more ping pong playing. You need to be together, you need to work together, and the best is to sit at the same campus even. That's why SAP and Siemens now moved on our campus, that you can really co-develop and co-create things, because it's not the case as it was 50 years back, where all the knowledge was at the universities. There's still a lot of knowledge, but there's a lot of data and market expertise on the company side, and bringing this together is important for progress, for making progress.
So would you say that for that to happen, also companies and the mindset of companies need to change? Because maybe also they have difficulties to say, now that is our knowledge and we don't want to give this to the outside.
I have the feeling that that is currently changing. Probably not as it should be when it comes to medium-sized companies. This family-owned businesses, they are always a bit more afraid, I think, of these great universities, and they have some fear that they do not know who's the right person to speak, and if I talk with them, do I open my company too much? I think that really needs to change, and that's a reason, by the way, why we opened the campus in Heilbronn, because we have all the SMEs, a lot of top SMEs sitting there and family-owned businesses, and we want to open our doors and help them taking this digital transformation step. Whereas in Munich, we have a lot of those global partners. So I think it's a good complementation, but both is needed. I have the feeling that the larger companies are a bit open already. This is fantastic. But I think that we need to be also from the university more proactive in approaching also SMEs and family-owned businesses and showing how we can help them and not waiting until they come to approach us.
Yeah, an interesting kind of statement, because traditionally there's always there's the statement that there should be more interchange between politics and economy and academia, but actually you're also a proponent for more exchange between academia and kind of the economy or enterprises. So amazing universities, amazing initiatives.
If you look, for example, at all the AI potential, which we talked about before, I think the limitation of using the potential of AI is data, right? So, and many of these data lakes are sitting in the companies. So it's a no-brainer that you have to bring science and businesses more together.
It should be. So if you're listening, if there is a medium-sized or large company that has a lot of data, approach TUM to see what they can do together. Great. Maybe final question. If you were 18 today again, what would you advise your own self?
I would advise myself, and I think this is what I always really did, and that's why I say it. I wouldn't do it differently. I would just do what I really like to do. I never did something what I was not convinced of. I always did things where I also had some fun. That was as a professor and now as a president. I don't see that as a profession. For me, it's a lot of fun too. I have really fun in looking in the faces of the students, and gives me a lot of energy. So don't waste your time with something which you're not convinced of.
Amazing final statement. Thomas, thank you so much for this amazing discussion and interview. I feel I really understood a lot better why TUM is this amazing institution and had so much success in the past. So also all the best for the future. And I'm watching closely, and I'm very excited to see what will happen and come out in terms of innovation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a lot of pleasure. Thank you.